Hey everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to my new video of 2025. I hope you all had a great Christmas and are having a great New Year so far. And this is episode 71 of my Metal Vaults, where I will be exploring and showing you my favorite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal to death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. As well as talking about the albums, I will also be talking about the bands. So a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And this one is my just one of my all-time favorites, along with two of the bands that comprise the Peaceville Three. Now, which bands am I on about when I say the Peaceville Three? Well, two of them I've already mentioned, and I'll be going into that label a bit more in this video, as well as the other bands that are on there as well. I have mentioned My Dying Bride and their album Turn Loose the Swans, which is my all-time favorite from theirs, and Paradise Lost with Gothic, which is my all-time favorite from theirs. And this is my all-time favorite from these guys, and of course, they are Anathema. And they were one of the pioneers, along with My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost, as the pioneers of Death Doom. And they were all on this label at the same time. Of course, My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost went on to join Nuclear Blast. These guys went on to join a new label and then disbanded nearly 5 years ago now. So without further ado, let's crack on with the band and the album. Once again, this is Anathema, and this is their 1993 debut, Serenades. One of my favorite logos there. Fantastic album. We got a band picture there. This is a re-release because it has bonus tracks. And of course, got to show the booklet without the light glaring off the case. And another band picture right here. Inside we have a little band picture there and lyrics. And of course, I will show the CD because I do like this CD because it blends two of my favorite things, metal and nature. Really cool there. And of course, the famous Peaceville logo right there. Who this label started out as a punk label, which a lot of you out there will know, but for those who don't, they weren't always a metal label. They did punk to begin with, but then progressed into metal. Now, let's talk about these guys. Let's talk about Anathema. They formed in 1990 in Liverpool, Merseyside, here in the UK, as Pagan Angel to start with, and then later changed that to the band we know today. Pagan Angel is such a cool name. Of course, started out as Death Doom, and then went on to be progressive atmospheric rock. Released 13 albums in a 30-year career. And in 2020, they called it a day. Not sure when in 2020 they uh split up, but they, of course, what I'm reading here is obviously they went on a hiatus in September of 2020, and then in June of 2021, one of the members announced a new project, and pretty much was the end of Anathema. So let's crack on with. Well, actually, before I crack on with the band's releases and then this fantastic debut, let's talk about the label Peaceville. Still going today, formed in 1981 by Hammy in West Yorkshire. Bands still currently today are Akakoka. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say their name. Some people say it differently. Autopsy still on the label today. Cancer, Dark Throne, Deviated Instinct, Gowhammer, Hell Ripper. Who else do people know on here? Mortis Scold. Like just for some of the names that are still on the label. As for past bands, we have, of course, Anathema, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, Baphomet, Bloodbath, At the Gates, Cradle of Filth, Bloodbath, um, Conan, Enchantment, which is Mark's band, Enslaved, Evoken, I Hate God, who else on here? Catatonia, Mayhem, Rotting Christ, Prophecy of Doom, Pitch Shifter, Pentagram, The Gathering, Therian, Vital Remains, just to name a few that were on the label at one time or another. Some of which are either still going or not going anymore. But yeah, it's just this label. This is why I like Peaceful, because it mixes up death metal and doom metal, sludge and black metal, and just a really cool diverse of genres of metal in there. Now let's get on with the demos and the EP before getting on to the debut. So the first one is An Iliad of Woes, which was released on the 25th of November 1990. It was an independent release. I've not actually heard this one, but I will be giving it a good listen if it's floating about here on YouTube. And the lineup for there was Darren White, Jamie Kavanagh, John Douglas, Daniel Kavanagh, and Vincent Kavanagh. Now, all three of those were our brothers. Of course, Daniel and Vincent and John were all in the band until it disbanded in 2020. Of course, Daniel and Vincent are doing their own projects now. Jamie, not so much when I looked him up. Because Vincent and Jamie are twins. Daniel is the oldest out of the two. Like I said, Vincent is also doing his own little project as well. But Jamie's not, but he has done some musical stuff in between being in Anathema and then other bands as well. Of course, Darren White was the vocalist from 1990 till 1995. And his vocals are just really cool, quite haunting as well. So if you have heard a lot of Anathema stuff with Darren on, you know how haunting his vocals can be, but it works for this style of music that they do. He's currently in a band called Anti-Fear. I don't know what sort of stuff that is, but I need to actually look that up. But yeah, he's still currently doing music today. John, when I looked up, is still doing some music today. So all still doing music in one way or another. And then we have their 1991 demo that was released back in on the 20th of May 1991, and that is called All Faith Is Lost. And of course, same lineup as it was on the first demo. So that'd be Darren White, Jamie, Daniel, and Vincent Kavanagh, and John Douglas. And of course, another independent release. And then the split single, like the single called They Die and Crest Fallen, which was released on Witch Hunt Records. When I looked them up, are no longer going, and they are based out of Switzerland, Zurich, Switzerland, and they specialized in death metal and doom metal mainly, and bands they've had on that, obviously Anathema, who else? Other bands are not totally. Oh, Vomitory. They've had Vomitory on there, and Sinister. So just to name a couple more. Like I said, I haven't heard these early like demos and singles, but I will be if they are floating about. And of course, their EP, their debut EP from November of 1992, The Crest Fallen. And what an EP it is. Just just like showing you just how dark and atmospheric their music is, and pretty much after this EP, of course, we get on to the debut release. But this consists of 5 tracks, and of course, bass player then changed from Jamie to Duncan Peterson, and of course, he's also an anti-fair with Darren White. Of course, was the bass player from 91 to 98, and has done live stuff for Anathema 2015, 2018, 2019. So he came back on bass for a brief time. Did guest stuff of obviously one of Anathema's releases, the Hindsight release for Irish Mandolin, really nice there. And then another band called the Eternal and WEB, I think I suppose, yeah, Web. I'll just say Web. And obviously music stuff for Alternative 4, which is the cover art concept, and not a lot not a lot from there, but still very much involved. And of course, guest vocals from Ruth, who does appear on the EP, does appear on the debut, and of course, her sister Rebecca does as well. And now that goes to Serenades, which was their debut album to be released on Peaceville Records. Of course, the first thing to be released was the EP I just spoke about, The Crest Fallen. And this has 9 songs overall. Of course, I got the re-release, so it has 12 songs overall. But I'm just only going to talk about it as it was released back then on the 28th of February 1993. And I mentioned that Ruth does guest vocals on track number 3 on this album. And of course, we still got the lineup of Darren, Daniel, Vincent, Duncan, and John. As for the people that did the engineering, the mixing, photography, producing, photographs, design, layout of the album, the one who done that was Dave Pybus, who was the bass player from 1998 to 2001 in Anathema, and also played bass for Cradle of Filth from 2002 to 2005, and then 2005 to 2012. And then a band called Darkened, which I will look up a little bit later on once I've done this video. And was in a project called My Black Omen with Cam Lee. I don't know if everyone knows who Cam Lee is. Unless you don't, then go check out Cam Lee and go check out Massacre and his other projects. Really, really just killer vocalist. And also he's done guest vocals for 2 other bands and projects. And then obviously did layouts for obviously Anathema, like artwork and layouts for the artwork. Also for At the Gates with that album, with Fear I Kiss the Burning Darkness, Autopsies, Theme for Blood, and Actually Unspeakable, Baphomet's The Dead Shall Inherit, Dark Throne, A Blazing Northern Sky, Mortar Skull, Die Remains, and As Humanity Fades. Both excellent albums. And Vital Remains, Let Us Pray, great album. And My Dying Bride for 3 EPs. Obviously one in 92, one in 94, and then a re-release from 2016, like a reissue of the cover. So that one would be I Am the Bloody Earth. So that's who did the artwork. We have Mags, who did the engineering for the album, as well as other bands. So My Dying Bride, they're like, well, this is for guest stuff. Did keyboards for My Dying Bride on Sons of Darkness, Words of Light. Music stuff, obviously, for Anathema, Blasphemer, great old school death metal, Cradle of Filth, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. That's just a great, nasty album. Nasty, just really good album. December Moon, Funeral, Enchantment, for their album, their debut, Dance the Marble Naked, as well as Morning Beloved, great death doom from Ireland. My Dying Bride to Lucius Swans, which I mentioned before. My Dying Bride for Seals, The Sense, uh, excuse me, Primordial, and so on. Just done a lot of stuff there, and then we get on to no, that's not one. There we go. We got Keith doing the mixing, who of course has done guest stuff for also for Cradle of Filth and My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost. The keyboards on Gothic, and of course mixing for Anathema, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, Sonic Violence, and the list goes on from there. And then Darren did photography, and for the photography cover, that was David Pempris. I think that's how you say it, Pempri. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, my pronunciations are not best. For obviously Serenades, and then for two other bands as well. And then we get on to Hammy, who produced it and is also the founder of Peaceville Records. And was in a band himself from 84 to 87 called Civilized Society with the question mark. Did guest vocals on tracks 2 and 6, additional vocals on Mental Funeral for Autopsy, and obviously did the producing for Anathema, of course, Autopsy, Axe Grinder, his own band, Deviated Instinct, Enchantment, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, and Sonic Violence, just to name a few. And then we got Paul Madlock. I'm not sure if I said his first name right, but I'll say just his last name, Madlock, who did, of course, photography for, like I said, Anathema and Paler for their album, Carnal Deity, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, Sonic Violence, just to name a few more. So that's who did mixing, mastering, producing, photography, artwork, and so on. Now let's actually crack on with the album. What do you get from this album? What do you expect if you've not heard it and you want to hear something a little bit different from what you normally listen to? Well, it's Death Doom, but there's just so much more incorporated into this. So let's talk about the songs. We have Lovelorn Rhapsody, which has a very good start to the album. A lot of the songs there are quite atmospheric, but they all have their own little flair of atmosphere. But it's still constantly just like very, very much that somber type of atmosphere, but with heavy music in the background. Everyone does so well with their respective instruments and their respective roles. And Darren's vocals are just that trying to think of the word. It's that I can't think of the word, but that's literally like the thing that I think brings it all to life is his vocals, because they're very different from what you get from like your standard like death metal vocals. Because he doesn't really go for like the really like the growls and that. It's more like a it's like he's doing more doom metal vocals over death metal style guitars for a lot of it. But like I said, it's death doom, so it's quite and it's but very atmospheric. And then it goes into track number 2, my favorite track, which is Sweet Tears, which has a good you hear the drums first and then guitars like some like a rock style solo, and then you get like with the guitars, it's got that you get the chugs, and then it does like a slide up, the sliding bit in it, and then you get the little solo part in there as well. And Darren's vocals just very haunting, like he's just he's literally just getting all of his emotions out in one. And then that gets onto the third track, which I don't even know how to say. It's track number 3. I'm not sure how you say that. Is like Joe. I'm not going to try and say it, but I think the last word goes promise, and that's Ruth doing some vocals on there, and her voice is absolutely just fantastic. It's beautiful and fits that so well. So it's a nice little calmer bit before it gets back into the heavier side of the album, and then that goes to They Will Always Die. Again, it's carrying on from where the first song started from, that very atmospheric tone. Great guitar work, bass work, drumming, vocals, just everything is a just absolutely fantastic. And then we go into Sleepless, which has a nice little, basically like a doom metal beginning before it goes like into the palm mute, palm mute, the pinch harmonic part with the guitars, and but it just goes from being like a atmospheric album to a just a full-on metal album basically. And then we get Sleep Insanity again, just carrying on from all of the atmosphere where the first 4 songs basically just kept, well, from the first song and then the other 3 songs carrying that on. And then we have Scars of the Old Stream, which is the shorter track on here, because the first shortest track on there would be the third track. But again, very much like that little just atmospheric part where there's no drumming, there's no guitars, there's no bass, there's no Dan's vocals on there. It's just a actually no, like Darren's vocals are there, as but not the full on like death metal vocals that you would do throughout the album. And then we get Under a Veil of Black Lace, which is another song I really liked. It had all of that dark atmospheric tone as pretty much every other track on it, even the ones where it's not like full on Death Doom. And then we come to the last song, Where Shadows Dance, which is the second um shortest track on here, because obviously that one would be the third track, and then this one, and then the last one would be Scars of the Old Stream, which is 1 minute and 10 seconds. But I think the longest one on here would be Under Veil of Black Lace. But my favorite's always going to be Sweet Tears, because it's still very slow and heavy, but it's not like ultra slow like you would get Funeral Doom. It's that, obviously, what you get with a lot of Death Doom is not overly slow. It's still a bit fast, but more mid-paced in that sense. But Where the Shadows Dance just perfectly ends what this album just started out to be, which was just heavy and atmospheric, and just a yeah, it's just a lot different from what you would have heard back then with death metal. Like, because I think someone commented on one of my last videos saying that death metal was very experimental back then. You can just do stuff. Like, of course it was. Like you got bands like, go back to My Dying Bride, who would add violins and keyboards to their music. Obviously, on their first album, they didn't have a violin player. That's not until their second album where they had a violin player pretty much all the time, and it worked. Of course, Aaron not just doing growls and screams, he would also do clean vocals like Darren here. He does those clean vocals on track number two of Sweet Tears. Near the end of the of the song where he goes, she passed away, but dreaming, her soul's awake and screaming. The weeping willow is weeping. Like that's a haunting part in that song, and Darren's vocals stand out. That was the word I was trying to look for. This is the standing out part of the album because his vocals are just it goes from those uh those growls to cleans, and it's just like like also like Macrophone, you go from Opeth, you go from growling to screaming to cleans, and obviously for those who are like really like like the death metal, but only like that because of the growling, they're not going to enjoy something like this. But I love stuff like this because it's a lot different from what you would have heard from the death metal bands of that time, like Morbid Angel and Death and Cannibal Corpse and Obituary, Suffocation, who were doing either low gutturals or lots of growls and not doing any clean vocals because obviously it won't work for that style of death metal. But for something like this, which has doom in the mix, it definitely works. And Darren does a fantastic job with his vocals, you know, changing the tone and just, you know, not not straying away from it. And, Daniel, where was it? Yeah, Daniel being the lead guitarist in the band, his solo works just really cool. And of course, you got Vincent and Duncan and John keeping the rhythm part strong and tight. And of course, when you don't have Darren doing all of his parts, all of his vocals, you got Ruth on track number three, which is just more of a somber track, something you can just maybe when you're just relaxing at home doing nothing, you could just put that on, like just go for a lay down and just put that specific song on and just lose yourself in it. This is an album you can lose yourself in it. And I remember watching the it's the Peaceville uh one that it was Anathema, My Dying Bride, and At the Gates they did a tour together, and I cannot remember which one that was. I need to find it. Here we go. Headbangers Ball 1993 on the road, Peaceville. So it was the Peaceville um metal show, I think it was. And I think that's what it was called. I might be calling it something else because I can't actually remember the proper name of it. But whoever was at that show, well, super jealous. I have seen My Dying Bride and At the Gates. Don't think I ever got to see Anathema though, but this album here, if you are, because I know there's going to be people out there who are going to be like, oh, I like more of what they released later on. But for those who are super curious, this is a lot different from what they started doing, you know, later on in like the late 90s, throughout the early 2000s, 2010s, and till they called it a day in 2020. But yeah, but yeah, this is just death, doom. It's not. It's atmospheric and it can be quite. It's quite progressive as well. Is come to think of it, they got some very progressive guitar lines. You know, like especially in Sleepless with the the clean guitars and the bass. It just and the drumming behind that. You can hear the bass a lot because it's just there. You can hear the strings just chugging away, and it's an album that I love, and I hope there's a lot of you out there that love this as well, that heard it back in the day. Or you're probably like, nah, it's not for me because I don't like it. And then you go back to it and you're like, I wish I gave it a chance back in the day. It's just you didn't like it at the time, wasn't your thing, but now it's your thing, and you're like, oh, okay, I can see why people loved it then. For me, I would have been into this album back then, but saying that, I was more into just a more straight up death metal, but then I heard more stuff like this, and I'm thinking, well, it's cool that there were bands that did that mixing of it. They mixed all these melodic elements to it, like at the gates, they mixed melodic parts to their music. So, pretty much one of the biggest melodic death metal bands out there. But with these guys, Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, all changed their sounds over the years. And either if you love that other stuff or hate it, you can't deny that they nailed their their style of their music really well. So going from death doom to gothic gothic metal, like with My Dying Bride, is like gothic doom. Still a bit of death metal in there, but it's more on the gothic doom side. And Paradise Lost is gone a bit more on the gothic side these days, but still heavy and still very prominent. And same, and this album is still holds up today because February on the 28th of this year, the 28th of February, this will be 32 years old. So nearly 32 years of just fantastic death doom. And of course, my final conclusion is obviously this is a heavy, dark, atmospheric album. Everyone does so well on it. Darren's vocals are very haunting, but very somber as well. All the guitars, the bass, and the drums just complement each other very, very well. And Ruth's vocals are a nice little, just a nice little cherry on the top of an already fantastic album. Her vocals are just mellow and beautiful sounding, and most importantly, it's a timeless masterpiece, and it will remain a timeless masterpiece for a very long time to those who love stuff like this. And I do highly recommend, I urge people to listen to stuff like this. You may not like it at first, it may not be your thing. I remember hearing it first time, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then I was like, and then listening to Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride. And I was like, and then looked, I was like, the Peaceville Three. So I was like, these three bands, like, oh, cool. So I checked out a bit more Anathema, and I was like, yeah, I'm sold. But yeah, absolutely, utterly fantastic album right here. So to sum it up one more time, heavy, dark, and atmospheric, timeless masterpiece. For those who are fans of Anathema, more later stuff, go check out the early stuff. But if you're more into the early stuff, this is an album, and of course the Crestfallen EP you will hear the most. And yeah, what a great way to kick off 2025 with a fantastic album like this. So once again, Anathema and Serenades, just just a beautiful, utterly fantastic album. And that is it for another episode of my Metal Vault. First one of 2025. More to come as well. Hoping to reach that 100 video mark of my Metal Vault and also do more of my other videos. So thank you very much again for all of the support you have given me over the years. To those who have been watching my channel for such a long time, it's good. It's good to be back after a bit of a break because obviously I took Christmas Eve off, and I thought let's wait until sometime in early January to do a new video. And I thought let's do it. Let's do it now. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with everything I got coming up. And there will be more My Metal Vault episodes because I've got quite a lot of them already listed out. And just thank you for all the support. I've been Jake's Metal Chat. Keep the banner of metal well and truly high, and I will see you all in another episode of My Metal Vault.